You are listening to episode number 43.
If you're someone who wants to make major changes in their life, someone who wants to achieve their goals, or maybe you're someone who knows this is not as good as it gets, but you have no idea where to start, on the Reinvent You podcast, we explore different types of people, their successes and failures, and how they reinvented themselves to create the life they love. It's our hope that from hearing their stories, that you too may have more insight into what it takes to build a life that you envision for yourself. Here to help you do that is performance and life coach Travia Stewart.
You guys, happy Thursday. I feel like I'm sort of like floating right now. I just finished my conversation, my recording with Donya. And Donya is a financial advisor that I was introduced to through my friend Vicky. And, Vicky always says, we good people. We only know good people and keep good people around us. And it's so true. And as I reflect on the conversation that I just had, I feel so inspired and so motivated to challenge myself even further. Donya did that financial exercise, which you're going to want to stick around for because it was so eye-opening. But I've never claimed to be a know-it-all or to be someone who is immune to these things. But because of my, we got into talking about my programming and conditioning and just all of our conditioning and programming. And during that exercise that Donya just made click for me, that made it, so easy to be able to understand and comprehend on a financial level. She asked me about how much money, just for a hypothetical example, I wanted to make a month. So I said $20,000, right? A month. Well, then immediately in less than like 30 seconds, I took that down. Oh, okay, let's go to 10,000. Because so many times, myself included, we put limits on ourselves. We put limits because sometimes that's conditioning, programming, because we can't see how we can make that happen. And the reason why I'm so inspired is that Donya is an example of someone who made those things happen, who still strives to make more of those things happen in her life, and reflecting on that conversation, I say all the time that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I want to put it out there. We talked about manifesting these things. Donya Monroe is someone that I want to be the average of the 5 people I spend the most time with because I feel so full right now from our conversation because we were able to talk about some things at such a level in that conversation that I don't normally have with people. I love that she's always seeking to grow, seeking to evolve, seeking to challenge herself. And even as she dreamt as a 12-year-old girl who had all these dreams, and she's achieved a lot of things in her life. She has her own business. She's on a jazz club. I mean, she's done all these things, but she's still always looking to improve and go a notch higher, because we all want to think and know that before we close our eyes, before we leave this earth, that we've done all that we came here to do. So I just wanted to share with you my conversation with Donya, and it was, again, it's just got me so full, but in a great way. So thank you for that, Donya. All right, let's get into it. My guest today is the CEO and founder of MWA Wealth Management and Investment Advisory Group. And on today's show, we are going to discuss things like growth and learning, how you can reinvent yourself, how you can grow on the job using the expertise and the skills that you're learning, and you can actually get paid to learn. And then Donya also shares her knowledge on the next stage with retirement, reinventing yourself. You know, we talked about so many more things, and I want you to make sure you have a pen and paper ready to go, because Donya is laying out some nuggets of information that from a financial standpoint, you are going to want to remember these things. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is none other than financial advisor, Donya Monroe. Donya, welcome to the Reinvent You podcast. I'm stoked that you're here today. I know we've never had this financial conversation, but I'm so excited about the direction that we can possibly take it for the people who are listening to this episode. So welcome to the Reinvent You podcast.
Thank you, Trey. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first, and so be gentle with me.
Okay, I'll take it easy. I won't ask about your unborn child.
Oh God, yeah, please, yeah. Let's leave that one alone.
We'll leave that alone. So before we dive into the nuts and bolts of it, you know, the gravy of it, give our listeners some context as to who Donya is, how does she show up in the world, those types of things.
Wow, that's a good question. I think honestly, I'm probably still trying to figure that out, but that's the beauty of it, is that I really recognize that I'm a whole bunch of things. I'm an athlete, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a aunt, I'm a wife, partner, significant other, whatever words you want to use, friend. But I'm also a serious person. I'm also a person who's interested in getting better, doing better every day. So there's a lot to that. I mean, I guess I'm a whole bunch of things. So I guess you'll get to know me better as we do this. I don't know. That's a hard question. I'll have to think about that. I feel like that's a Bravo question. You know, give your whole definition of who you are in one sentence. Yeah. You know, I wouldn't even know what that would be.
Right.
What would you call yourself?
I give the quick version, but see, I ask it a little differently because it's like, you know, how do you show up in the world?
Yeah.
And so that's a little different, because I can easily go, like, you could have just said, oh, I'm a financial advisor, I'm the CEO and founder of this company. But that's not what I asked. You know, I was like, how do you show up? So yeah, it's a multifaceted answer that you could provide. So I love that.
It's a lot of things. And I think being a financial advisor is a result of being all those people, because you have to, I mean, at the end of the day, always people say, oh, I manage money. You don't really manage money as much as you're managing people and helping them get their dreams happen in their lives, even before they even know they have their dreams. That's sometimes the tricky part.
Okay. You know, let's dive right into that. So whenever I think of, I'm just going to be real here. Whenever I think of people in the financial industry, I think of like white men.
Oh,
you know,
please don't even start. So yes, I started my career in the particular field of the financial advisory and investment world at Merrill Lynch. Pretty sure everybody's heard of that company. And that is a white male company. It is. It's much better today than it was 20 years ago when I worked there, but it still predominantly is a company that is run by that perspective, I guess, for a lack of a better word. And it was a great place for me to work because I learned a lot of things, and I learned a lot of things about people's perceptions, just like yours, that it really oftentimes didn't matter how much I knew or my knowledge, as much as it was about the perception that the client would have about me and my knowledge. What does that really mean? Well, sometimes you have to work a little harder. Man, we've heard that before, but it's just factual knowledge. But that's okay. I think that works to my advantage, because I ended up being the training director at Merrill Lynch after I graduated out of the program, which no other African American had done in the state of Nevada prior to me. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That it was 1999, 2000, something like that, for that to happen. And so I recognize there needs to be first, but not in the 21st century. I don't think. And we're having lots of them. So yeah, it's You're right. But I overcame that. And what happened is that once the word gets out and that your business is built on referrals and,
Yeah.
here you go. And the funny thing is, I don't have a lot of African-American clients. They're not the majority of my clients. Older
Right.
white people are. Older white people are. Huh.
Right? Exactly. So older white, why is that? What's your best guess as to why you don't have more African American clients?
Because of what you said, how you started this conversation.
Yeah.
I don't imagine a financial advisor looking like me, sounding like
Mhm.
being me. And until we can change that by one, having more people that look like us, act
Mhm.
like us, talk like us, walk like
Right.
us in those positions. So as people are being raised and children are being raised, they can see their potential.
Right.
And and that's where we lack. And once we can overcome that, then guess what? Then you'll see in your mind me. When you look at me, you know what I get, well, you know what I get when people look at me and you say, how do you come to the world? I usually get, depending on what's going on, during 9/11, I was an air marshal. People
Oh,
thought,
okay.
yeah, security, some sort
Mhm.
of security, some sort of FBI, CIA, somebody that was,
Right.
and that's interesting because I don't, that's, so how I am seen by the world really sometimes I don't have any control over that.
Of course, you don't.
All I can
Mhm.
do is be me. And that's the part that took a lifetime for me to figure out, that I think is critical in anything that you do, is recognizing that you are who you are, but how other people perceive you is out of your control.
It's so
And
true.
you say it is, but I put on a dress or look like this or comb my hair this way or put nail polish on or wear these shoes that I'll
Right.
be. No, not necessarily, because it's a
Right.
whole bunch of things. It's how you think of yourself.
Yeah. And when you bring that up, it took me almost 50 years of my life to let that roll off my back. Right?
I know what you're talking about. I mean, I
Yeah,
know exactly what you're talking about.
absolutely.
Whether the audience knows what we're talking about, that'll be based on where they're coming from.
Hmm.
But yes, it takes a long. And once you do that, don't you feel freer?
Oh, absolutely.
Don't you feel freer? Then once you are freer, then you walk freer, and you
100%.
and but it but
Yeah.
that is a journey to get there. I was probably 50 years old before I could truly
Yeah.
get it. Like
Yeah.
embrace it, because intellectually, hey, don't, but
Hmm.
emotionally is always the challenge.
Absolutely. Like, see, this is where I want to live. Like this conversation that we're having, because perspective, people would put us both in probably the same box and go, what they're talking about philosophical things, what finances, life, having a metamorphosis, and I want to have more conversations like that because I feel such, my goodness, I feel such like we're still playing catch up. We're still trying to claw and grab our way through. And it took me, again, almost 50 years to get to a point of where it's like, you know what? We can go further faster. So today, yeah, I want to go further faster.
Yeah, we are just learning that we are equipped for this. We are
Yeah.
smart, we are strong, we catch on quickly, we learn quickly, we retain information,
Hmm.
we have a capacity to understand suffering and move through it. We have
Yeah.
all of these skill sets that
Hmm.
I think we as a culture really are starting to embrace and use. I mean,
Right.
look at the things that we've already accomplished. We've had a Black president. I mean,
Yeah.
if you understand our history, I'm talking about the history in our lifetimes, our very short lifetimes,
Yeah.
where it is, where we have come. It's amazing. And so I think the speed is being even increased more because of the age of technology and the internet
Absolutely.
and the transference of knowledge and information.
Hmm.
I mean, careful. Once we get to know how good we are, I mean, it's going to be
Careful.
amazing. It's going to be
Yeah.
amazing.
I love that.
And I believe that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So, Donya, someone like you, because you played basketball for UNLV, correct?
I
So,
did.
so when you're a student there, what is it that makes someone like you want to go into financing?
Well, this is I told you I'm a storyteller, and I mean, I'm gonna tell you the truth, and so that everybody understands your journey is that.
Yeah.
So coming out of high school, I was just it's all basketball. It's just
Hmm.
basketball. The whole world was spinning around basketball, and so that's kind of where your life is when you enter, and it's very competitive, and
Hmm.
it's highly intense, and as a freshman, the workouts and the training is
Right.
intense, and I'll tell you, at the end of my freshman year, I was doing so poorly in school that I had to
Hmm.
kind of get myself together and make a decision about this, whether I was going to be a basketball player or whether I was going to be a student and a
Okay.
basketball player. But I needed to make that decision. It was at the end of my freshman year when I was literally embarrassed by my grades.
Hmm.
Now, my parents lived out of the country my entire college career. So I didn't get to go home or call them or any of that stuff. That's when phone calls, you remember, were $10 a minute or some craziness, right? So I had to kind of grow up quickly in the college experience. And when I figured out that it was time for me to get an education, and it was really the summer of my sophomore year when I figured out the game. And we'll talk a little bit. I think we should talk a little bit about the game, which means
Absolutely.
I figured out I could take 5 weeks of courses, what they call mini sessions, and I
Hmm.
caught up that way. But before I did that, I sat with my counselor and I said, "Hey, these classes I've been supposed to be taking, the ones I've taken, what are they closest to? What degree are they closest to?" Because I was just taking classes that I like. Oh, that
Yeah.
sounds cool.
Okay. Okay.
That sounds neat. I would like to learn about that. Whatever. School is free. You're not thinking about cost. You're not thinking about anything.
Right.
It was like a la carte shopping, and I was just taking things that were interesting
Okay.
to me. That's it.
Yeah.
No degree in mind, just taking things that are interesting. And so she went through the
Oh.
things that I had taken, and she said, "You're closest to a degree in finance." That's what it's gonna be, then. Put me on a
Okay.
pace, put me on the track, tell me what I need to finish taking so I can get that degree. And that's how I got my degree in finance, honestly. And
That is so incredible.
I struggled, and what the part I didn't know about is there was math classes I had to take,
Hmm.
and I had avoided those up to that point. And I tell you, it was a struggle to this day. I mean, struggle,
Yeah.
struggle, struggle. And to this day, I could teach those classes now. Math is easy for me. It is somehow transformed my life when I started working. I got it. The light bulb went off.
Hmm.
But
Right.
in college, I couldn't grasp it. So that's how I decided my
Okay.
degree in finance.
I think
That's
that's
the truth.
incredible. That's wow. That because you went based on the avenue. That's the direction that we want most people to go in. But we
Well,
don't. When you go to college, it's like this, here's my major, and you force yourself to stay in that box and fit that path, whether you like it or not.
I think we pick backwards. I think
Yeah.
we pick backwards. I think we should experience then pick,
Hmm.
not pick then try
Then
to fit.
experience. Yeah.
Because what if you're wrong? I mean, what are
Yeah.
the odds that we're wrong in the major that we want in college? Well, they're probably
Right.
like 75% average that you're going to be wrong.
Right.
Very
Right.
few people go to college and pick the degree that they actually they love and are going to want to do a career in.
Yeah.
Most of us pick a one that someone has said we should have.
Hmm.
There's probably more accounting degrees out there, or liberal art. I mean, I don't know, but I think you should experience, which means
Right.
there should be a period of a year and a half or some period where you get to take classes based on your interests.
Hmm.
And then
See
that's what
what
you should
lines
be
up.
doing.
Yeah. I
That's what you
love
should
that.
be doing, but I
Yeah.
got lucky. I got lucky,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest lesson that basketball, being a college, a D1 athlete taught you that transferred to your life?
All this is going to sound super corny, but it's true. I think teamwork.
Hmm.
I think it is a asset to know how to work with other people that you may not like.
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
mean,
big.
can you imagine having to learn how to successfully reach a goal, win a game, whatever, finish a
Hmm.
task, create a program with people you don't like? And then what
Yeah.
happens is you learn to embrace the things that you think you don't like about a person. They become the best things. I mean, there are
Hmm.
people that I thought I didn't like when I was in college that are my closest friends today. And it's
Yeah.
because I was forced to get to know them. 4 years with a person, you're forced to get to know them. And
Hmm.
when you get to know somebody, you find that there's probably more things that you have in common than are different. But you don't usually learn those until you go through something difficult together. And so
Of
that's what
course.
sports has taught me, is that there's value in teamwork, there's value in working with people that you don't necessarily agree with or have similarities. There's value in that.
Right.
And I think that's helpful. It really is, because I think people
Absolutely.
struggle with that a lot today.
Yeah. Coming through that period in your life, you're the first African American to graduate from the Merrill Lynch School. Why don't you, like, when did the idea spark that I'm going to start my own company because I have that drive? Because again, separating, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because setting that high standard of starting your own business, because so many times, like myself, I just worked for someone else, and yeah, I had dreams and thoughts that I could do something else, but never really realistically believed that. Now I poured into these students that I taught for 24 years. They could really shoot for the moon and land among the stars. I don't know if I ever really thought that about myself until about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I was very blessed in that I had and have two wonderful parents that were very high achievers.
Hmm.
And so I lived in a world where this level of high achievement was just the norm.
Got it.
Um, Everybody graduated from college. It was like graduating from high school, it was graduating from college. It
Okay.
wasn't, it's not an option, it's just what you did. And so
Right.
we all kind of had to try to figure out a way to make that happen, because they didn't really care how or where, you just going to graduate from college
Right. Right.
and move towards the most that you could achieve. We really believed, and I still believe to this day, and my wife laughs at that. She thinks it's the most ridiculous thing, that I can do anything. I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe I can do anything. Those are my parents, because there was no limitations. Now, reality intellectually, I know there are things that I cannot do, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. All I need to do is believe that I can. And then I
Absolutely.
try for things way beyond what I should be, right? Because I've already been pre-programmed that I can do it. Boom!
You're
It's
talking my
programming.
language.
It's programming. And if we
Oh,
program our kids to achieve, guess what? They will. If we program them to, like, you'll never be more than this, guess what? They will.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
programming. And what has happened to us as we get older is you start to live your life outside of your parents' life, and you start to get reprogrammed by what you experience in your life and what
Absolutely.
you're espousing to your students. And then you say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Where exactly why are my limitations here? You have none. And then
Right.
boom, just like I said earlier, once we realize we
Yeah.
can, we do. And
This is incredible. Yeah.
I just have always, my personality is that I'm always looking for a way. I just am
Hmm.
always looking for a way to do whatever, or just a way. And it usually requires that I've got to get some more information or learn some
Hmm.
more things or go to school. And what people don't realize is Merrill Lynch, that's what it was for me, just another education.
Yeah.
I started out of college actually in lending, doing and working for a finance company, and
Hmm.
learning. Learned about real estate lending and small. I knew everything about loans that you'd ever want to know. And I, at that point, once I learned everything I could about lending, I said, you know what? I'm going to go out and start my own company and show these other corporations that are out there in retail or whatever how they can use lending to increase their business.
Boom.
And so
Okay.
that turned into something, and I got another job doing another thing, and I taught a company, large company out here, how to start use financing, and it increased the volume of their business like over
Hmm.
50%.
Right.
And then that's when Merrill Lynch came into the picture. I don't know, they
Okay.
found me, and so it just not, and I had no interest in working at Merrill Lynch, but again I approached it as another opportunity to learn something else,
Yeah.
learn more, and so
Right.
I just went to learn. And then once I learned what I thought all I needed to know, because I learned the game and how it worked, I
Yeah.
figured out how I could go do this myself. And then
Ooh, the
and then
game.
27 years later, here you are. I'm just keep searching for the next thing, and that's what I'm doing now. And then you have to
Right.
learn something before you.
Right.
So
Yeah. So do you think that's the same seed that your parents planted? Or where you are in your life right now, do you have a tribe who inspires you, motivates you, makes you challenge yourself, or is that same seed that your parents planted?
It's both. It's the same seed that my parents planted. Now, understand, it's a seed that's planted, but every flower will bloom a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is very entrepreneurial, and my brother's was more like more what's the word, traditional, and
Mm-hmm.
that he worked for large companies, did very well as you can see. He's a was a great journalist
Right.
and did lots of great things. But his was more less entrepreneurial and more traditional, and but success again. It's
Absolutely.
just about doing the best in your lane.
Yeah.
I always felt like me and my personality and the way my authenticity is the word I use. Um, Being an entrepreneurial lended itself better to me. It gave
Got
me
it.
more freedoms to do and be who I
Okay.
am.
Is that your word for 2021? Authenticity?
I think it's my word for. I'm going counting back 5 years.
Really?
2015. Yeah, oh, yeah. I've been trying to. That's been. Look, if I have to anymore um, be something so someone else feels better, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I am.
Yeah.
And if my being me has to be altered so I can be somewhere else or talk to some, I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it. I've done it. You've done it. We've
Yeah.
all done it
We've all done it.
because we had to. And I have learned as a result of that philosophy that you can still do the things that you want to do and be around. Your audience is different, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
a good thing. So the village, to your question, is
Mm-hmm.
the seed that my family planted, but it's also my family. Just that's my village. I'm very close to my family. I am very close to my cousins. We're like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
My wife is obviously an extremely instrumental part in lots of things that I do. I
Yeah.
mean, literally and emotionally and figuratively. But she's a great influence. She's a smart, strong woman, and I just really am blessed to have people around me that care about me. But I think that's because I've made a shift. I really don't want people around me that don't get me.
Yeah.
It's hard though. If there's consequences to that philosophy.
There are. Okay. So you don't want people around you who don't get you. What about having people around you who bring out and they get you, but they're not the person who inspires you. They're not the person who gives you anything, but out of obligation, right? You still hang out, you see these
Ah,
people.
well, okay. So when I say I don't want to be around people who get me, that's really probably too narrow of a statement because that's really not true. Because I recognize that my relationships with people, as all of ours, but I
Mhm.
recognize it, are transformational. So you may start one place when you begin a friendship with someone,
Right.
and then it moves as the friendship evolves.
Mhm.
And so it's not that someone needs to get me, they need to be willing to see me. They need to be willing to, I don't see, we judge too much before. You notice how when you're at a social event, networking, back in the days when we could actually be
Right,
in the
right.
same room with each other, when we'd go to
Yep.
events, the first thing people ask you is, so what do you do?
Mhm.
It's like, really? So that's going to be the determinant of who I am, what I do for a living.
Yes.
And that's where people start. What you do for a living is who you are. And I
Sure.
just think that's a bad place to start.
Right. But most people don't know where to start because like
Exactly.
I work, one of my big things that I do with coaching is I help people communicate better. And that is we never talk about that. I was like, the first time you go up to someone, notice something about that person that you can comment on. Be interested in them, not on what they do, but hey, I noticed that you have a pink shirt on with a tree branch on the back. What is that? That's got to be meaningful for you at this part, whatever it is. But it's being curious in a very authentic way rather than following that script of what do you do?
Right.
Yeah.
And being an Army brat, and my father, to give you his excellence, because he was excellent and remains excellent, is a retired black. My father's black, 2-star general in the Army.
Wow.
Major general in the Army.
Yeah.
And he got his first star when there's probably less than 20 black generals in the entire military arena.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a certain way in which I was raised, as you probably can imagine. But we had to learn how to adapt quickly because my life changed every 3 years. We moved every 3 years. I
Yeah.
moved 13 times before I graduated from high school. And so you learn how to quickly connect with a person.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it in 30 seconds. People don't listen though, and I can connect with someone in 30 seconds just if you just pay attention.
Absolutely.
And it could be the thing that you start the conversation could be about the event that you're at.
Yeah.
Why are you at the
Yep.
diabetes
Yeah.
convention? Are you
Absolutely.
know somebody? Or
how do you know the host?
right? Or I mean, it's just so simple, but we make it hard because
make it hard.
we are trained. We're trained. We're
Right.
programmed, and I think we need to become unprogrammed and go back to our core self. Go back to, don't do what society has told us that we should do and how we should move. Move how you move. And the problem is to unthink that we're going to have to learn how to be ourselves again. And I think this pandemic has helped some folks do that. But I think we should spend more energy on trying to figure out who we are and how we best operate.
Yeah.
And I think that authenticity will lead us to some great accomplishments.
Absolutely.
Really do.
I love that. See, I love this conversation. I know we're supposed to be talking finances here, but here we are talking about programming, and so I love that. Like, oh my goodness, you're just speaking my language. I just did a 10-minute talk on, how, basically it's how you're programming, it's your conditioning, it's your environment. And the story that I tell is a very true story. Is for most of my life, I've been afraid of the water. Now, I never had a traumatic experience or anything, but my mom wasn't comfortable in the water. She didn't go in the water. They believed that things were in the water that were going to eat you and bite you and kill you, kind of thing. You can get that bathtub or you can walk in from the beach, but like 4 feet, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I had this fear. I mean, I could swim because I took like 2 months of swimming lessons when I was like in middle school, from one side of the pool to the next, but it was a panic stroke every time, And so I realized it wasn't until I was like 40 where I was like, holy shit, I've got this fear. It's the programming. Yeah. So I had to go back and unravel. And it's part of the work that I do with clients. It's like, no, it's conditioning, it's programming. How can we open up that box so that you're no longer limiting yourself?
Well, it's just about the people you're around. I mean, we grew up, what you just talked about in terms of swimming, that's a cultural thing.
It is.
That's something that we as a culture have been led to believe, is that Black people can't swim.
Yep.
I mean, so if you're taught that, then why would you not believe that?
Yeah. And you see that.
Until you come upon something that says that differently. You know what I mean? It says something differently. So that somewhere in your life at 40 or whatever the age was, something happened in your life when you thought, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe I can swim. And you tried and you could.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just about, and I always say it's about your experiences. If you stay in your same box your whole life, how are you gonna be different?
That's what I'm talking about, because I didn't want to learn to be more comfortable in the water until I started traveling, and I don't want to, but I started traveling. My wife is white. And so when she was in second grade, this is how comfortable she is with water. When she was in second grade, her parents went to like some hotel for the week somewhere, and she jumped from the second balcony of the hotel room into the swimming pool.
We don't do that.
We don't do that.
I'll just say, we don't do that. I don't care how much conditioning exists. We don't do that. But God bless her, right?
But God bless her. But that's how much she loved the water and was so comfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and so having that influence in my life,
beautiful.
It is.
Beautiful.
It is.
And that matters. That matters.
Yeah.
And if you can get kids experiencing different things, the earlier, different people, different things, different foods, different cultures, and to the point where they think it's normal, then imagine what they'll do as adults. But oftentimes we are so sometimes protected because our parents really are, they care. It's about love. And so
Yeah.
sometimes the restrictions are not because you just don't, it's love based because it's their upbringing. And I mean, you can go back far enough to understand why we are who we are.
Hmm.
We're a trauma based culture. We
Yeah.
come from trauma. And so our parents and our grandparents have done their best to protect us, and we still have that in us. And like I said, information is faster now, and things are quicker now,
Yeah.
and transformations are happening a lot at a faster pace. So we got to
Right.
catch up. We got to understand that we don't have those restrictions as well.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that, you love to keep growing and evolving, and the joy of learning. How do you maintain that joy? And like, what is it that you do? Like, like professional development. How do you keep up leveling your skills in
Sure.
order to keep growing like that flower?
Sure. Well, professionally, you got to read. I'm a believer. You have to read. You have to study.
Hmm.
I'm a person who takes classes. For just the purpose. I'm taking coding classes right now. I'm learning to code right
Go
now.
ahead.
I'm not trying to get a job in coding, but
Right.
I would like to understand it
Okay.
because people talk that language. If I just had a base knowledge of it, so I'm taking coding classes right now.
Just
Um,
because.
just because I'm interested in what people talk about it,
Yeah.
I'd like to understand what really coding is all about.
Right.
And it's been fascinating. I can tell I'm an older coder because I'm slower, but now I have an understanding. And when people talk about it and talk about HTMLs and talk
Yeah.
about the different languages and how one does what, it makes sense. And also, you got to learn a little bit before you start doing something. Ever had a repairman come in, you're a little nervous because you don't know anything about what they're about to do. And you're just
Yes.
like, he can take me, he can do, I have no knowledge. I can't say yes or no because I have no knowledge.
Right.
And I kind of see that as life. You just don't want to go into it without any understanding. So I do webinars. In my field, we have continuing education that is required for my
Hmm.
the insurance license that I have. And so you're continuing, and things change, so you need to keep up with it. But I think
Right.
reading and taking classes, I mean, there's so many free classes online. There's so much free knowledge online.
Yeah.
YouTube University is a wonderful place, I call it, and there's
Yeah.
just that's what I do, and talk to people like you. I learn from talking to people um,
Absolutely.
all
Yeah.
the time.
Oh, I love that. So in your work with your clients, why would I need someone like you?
Absolutely. So my career, my job has evolved as my career has evolved in terms of the areas of expertise that I spend a lot of time on.
Hmm.
When I started at Merrill Lynch, I came to it with a lending background, as of course, and that helped in Merrill Lynch because they do lending as well. But I also learned a lot of other parts of the job, from asset management, picking stocks, picking mutual funds, to that's money management, that's the wealth management, money management part, to leveraging and insurance and using insurance as leverage, to fixed income and bonds and municipalities, to ETFs, exchange traded funds, ADRs, warrants, all different types of equity investments, everything from lending, looking at liabilities and assets. Does it make more sense to finance something or to buy it cash or do a mix? What assets are important? The 10 parts of a balanced portfolio. I mean, there's so much to know. But at the end of the day, what I end up really using, and as an area that I spend a lot of time in, is retirement. So
Mm.
if you're a person that intends to retire some point in your life, that's where my expertise is. And that
Okay.
happened kind of naturally. One of my first largest clients was someone who had a lot of money and it was about to retire. And so I had to learn how to take a lump sum of money and make it last for their entire retirement.
Okay.
And so that's tricky because people are different. Some people like to spend money. The people who don't want to spend money in retirement, they're easy, obviously. But
Hmm.
most people want to travel and have a good time.
Yeah.
So I had to learn a lot of different things about how to structure people's assets so that they could live on them for the rest of their life, and how to
Okay.
set them up and make them understand how you need to accumulate assets so that you have enough to live on for the
Right.
rest of your life. And so that's really my focus right now, is
Okay.
people going into retirement, about to retire, and showing them how to retire.
Perfect.
And using that lump sum of money that they should have saved
Okay.
and use it for the rest of their life. I know you got a question on that one.
I do.
That's easy.
Yeah. So let's say you have someone graduating from college, you have someone who's like 35 and someone who's like 50. What's the best advice for those people financially so that they set themselves up for success?
Right. And that's a great question. First of all, you never, ever, ever, ever can start saving early enough.
Mhm.
Man, you've heard that a million times.
I
You've heard it
have.
when we were kids, but it's hard to put into actual practice unless you understand the why. Why is that important? You know what I'm saying? Why
Right.
does that make sense? And so what you have to do with kids or even adults is show them that, all right, if you could have any amount of income right now, just any amount, what would, just give me a number per month that you would receive?
$20,000.
Okay, $20,000 a month. All right. So if I show you how to create $20,000 a month of income, I mean, show you what it costs to generate $20,000 a month in income. Won't that give you a focal point that you'll maybe understand and get you some so let me give you some.
Yeah.
Do you have a calculator near you anywhere?
I do on my phone.
Okay, on your phone. All right. So let's figure out how much we can get and what we need to do to get $20,000 a month without you having to get up out of your chair and go to work. Okay?
Should we do a more realistic number for people?
You can do. You can give me any number you want.
All right, let's do more realistic. Like, let's say 10,000.
Well, okay, but 20. I don't understand why 20,000 isn't.
See, because again,
okay.
No, let's stay with 20. See, I love that. Stay with 20
because 10. I mean, you just put a restriction on yourself. I don't know why, but you did it.
Absolutely, $20,000 it is.
$20,000. Put $20,000 in your calculator.
Got it.
And then you want to do that per month. So let's multiply that times 12 months, right?
Yep.
Times 12. So that's, say it out loud. That's
$240,000.
$240,000 a year.
Yep.
Okay. So here's the thing. We have to have a pot of money sitting out there that every year can give you a $240,000, which turns out to every month $20,000. So how much money do we have to have sitting out there to get that lump sum of money? And that lump sum of money's got to stay that way because it's got to pay that every year. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what we're looking at is something that we could just take interest off of to generate $240,000 a year in income, without keeping that amount sitting there.
Okay.
So here's the part of being a financial advisor that you don't know, but I'll give it to you. And once you know it, you know it. You never can take it away.
Okay.
4% is the amount of money. Historically, it's a very conservative amount that financial advisors will use to create income streams. And the reason they use 4%, and there's economists out there, there's lots of studies, and Milton Friedman, and all these are the classes that say why 4% is a reasonable distribution amount. Currently, the argument is that it should be higher, but I'm going to use the most conservative because I want to try to make that dream come true.
Right.
So let's see what amount of money we could take 4% off of to get $240,000 a year. So now here's the math part that comes in. And once you learn it, you know it.
Okay.
You take your $240,000, you hit the divide by, and you type in 0.04, which is 4%. Divide by 0.04 equals. What's that number?
Did I do it right? It's $6 million.
It's $6 million. That's it. If you can get $6 million in a pot somewhere between now and when you want to start taking that $20,000, you're there. Now, here's the thing. What if you make more than 4% a year on your money, which you can, what if you have a 20% year, a 30% year, and so on and so forth? Well, you just pile on that $6 million. You could potentially be giving yourself a raise. You see what I'm saying?
4%. Got it.
Now, I just gave you a financial seminar. Simple. If I say to you, great, we can do $200,000 a year. All we need is $6 million. Now let's go get it.
Okay. And then how do you help me leverage my skills that I'm learning to go get it?
Okay. So then now we're taking it to a whole nother level.
Okay.
Now this is your field actually. Now this is trying to figure out who they are, or what's their best. How do they enjoy and making money. And also
Absolutely.
showing them about whatever job you're in right now, take advantage of any retirement opportunities you might have. What I mean by that is 401ks and 403bs.
Hmm.
Women are notorious for the worst contributors to 401ks or retirement accounts of their jobs. Why? Because they always think, I'm not going to stay at this job for a very long time. This is a temporary job until I have my kid, and then I'll
Right.
and then before you know it, you're the CEO of the company and they've been there 35 years. And so they don't contribute in a
Mm.
meaningful way early on the first day of employment. And if they did, they would easily have these $6 million numbers again,
Right.
assuming that your income. And because you want to, I always say you max out your contribution when you're not making any money, you're broke anyway. So you get used to that large contribution,
Right.
which is paying yourself. It's not like you're
Hmm.
paying a bill. I mean, I guess it is paying a bill. The bill is you, though.
Right. Paying
The bill
yourself
is you.
first. Yeah.
And I would rather, man, this sounds terrible, but I'd rather miss a latte at Starbucks or a sushi night out with friends to pay myself for my future.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're giving up,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And it's, but again, it's about perspective. If we
Mm.
give our children this knowledge early, that you can do whatever. 20,000 is not as incredibly crazy as you thought. But so then that's one thing. Retirement accounts, make sure you're working hard and you're getting yourself in positions of learning more and getting raises. In my situation, at working at Merrill Lynch, I'll just say it so you understand. You would make, and I'm just going to give you a number, they're real numbers that you understand. Whatever business you generated, you got 30% of that business. Merrill Lynch got 70% of the business.
Mm.
It's just the way it worked.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's their building, they're paying rent and utilities. You have a nice office, great
Right.
business card. I mean, that's how it works.
Hmm.
I'm not mad at them, but that's how it works. Now, once I learned that if I went out independent and I took care of the location, the business card, the fancy this or that, did everything like that, then I could get 85% of the business, and I only need to pay 15% out for support.
Yeah.
Once I learned that, I'm doing the same business, but now I take 85% of it. It's
Wow.
leveraging my
Yeah.
knowledge,
Yeah.
leveraging what I learned,
Right.
leveraging.
So what would be the most important, the number one thing that you would recommend, you know, and I'm not sure if it's what you know then that you know now, but like, what would be that advice to someone who is like, if I had it to do it perfectly, what's the most important thing they could do financially? Is it the 4%? Is it maximizing? What is your one bit of advice?
I would say work someplace that has a retirement account, contribute right away, um, as much as you can afford,
Hmm.
and every time you get a raise. Um, I believe everybody should have a side hustle. I just believe it. I believe we all should have a side hustle. And that, what I mean by side hustle, it doesn't have to be something making $2, $3, $4,000 a month. It could be
Hmm.
something making $20 a month. But you should get in the habit of doing something, hopefully something you like and love, that brings extra income in your pocket. I think we should have, you've seen this out there, 5 sources or streams of income. I'm sure you've seen that out there.
I have.
5 streams of income. 5. If you get in the habit of having 5 streams of income, then I believe life is about buckets, and particularly in financial world, you hear people savings, checking,
Yeah.
retirement. That's all important stuff. I mean, honest to goodness, it's important stuff. You need those different sources of income. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, I have someone, FedEx is out front, so you need those sources of income to fund these kinds of things. You know what I'm saying? To
Right.
fund your ventures, to fund your vacations, your businesses, fund your opportunities. I think, and I've said this before, we always have opportunities that come our way.
Hmm.
But if you're not prepared for them, you're going to miss them.
Right.
And sometimes being prepared for them means just having money in the bank to take advantage of that house, because there's a foreclosure market going on, and you can buy a house now for half of its value.
Hmm.
That's how wealth is created. Wealth isn't created when things are great and the market's up and everything's expensive. Wealth is created when things are horrible and people are suffering, unfortunately, and things go on sale. That's how
Hmm.
rich people get rich. They buy things that have value really cheaply, then they hold them until their value comes back, and then they sell them.
Yeah.
But if you buy things when the things are great because things are great and it feels great, you're buying at the highest point. And that's emotionally the normal thing to do. Emotionally, that's what we all do.
Right.
But you have to operate financially smartly, what makes sense. And that's hard to do. And you have to recognize things as assets and then recognize things like my house is my house. It's an asset, but it's not something that I'm going to trade. I may buy other houses to trade, but your home is your home. That's maybe an asset that you want to keep as an emergency. So
absolutely. Thank you for that lesson. Yeah, I love that. And I must admit, like financially, I'm not on the top of my game. I remember like Shelly and I were texting and she goes, "Oh, we're in a different bracket." And I was like, "Tell me more about that when you get home." I might need a little bit of a tutorial this weekend. And then she did, and so she's someone who's been money smart since high school, and I love that. And that again is surrounding yourself with people that, that know things like that. So I want to pivot to, I love this post that you posted on Facebook. I don't know if it was January 1 or January 2nd, but the post was, "And one day, just like that, you'll rediscover your light. You'll embrace your inner warrior. You'll snatch your power back and the whole game will change."
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
What was the motivation for that? Where does that hit?
So it's one of those things that you kind of go through life and you're just like, well, when is it going to happen? And it's happening all the time. It's happening all the time. One day you're going to realize it though. And then once you realize it, that it's happened, then you have the power.
Okay.
And it's hard because we live in a society that someone just wants to, it's hard. It beats you down from the messaging we get on a daily basis. You just watch the news. You turn on the news, what are you going to hear about? COVID. You know what I mean?
COVID.
Not that it's not real, not that it's not real, but it is. And our last 4 years have been traumatic in terms of the messaging we were receiving from leadership. And so it's confusing. And so I think it's hard to stay on your path. Whatever that path is, it's hard to stay on it because we have so many distractions. And so that post about one day you'll realize and you can snatch your power back. I really believe you always have it.
Yeah.
But you don't have it until you realize you have it.
How did you realize it?
Like I said, it's a recent phenomenon for me. Like, I was probably 50 years old was kind of my transformational age, that I realized that I had the power always within me kind of things. That sounds so, Luke Skywalker-ish in Star Wars, but it's true. You know what I mean? Now, if you believe what I'm saying, that now means that every day of my life is happy-go-lucky and powerful and good, then you've not heard my message. I'm trying to say that I recognize that the power that I have is something I've always had. It's a part of your journey. But you're going to have bad days. It happens. I mean, you're a human being. But you have to accept the bad days as part of the journey as well.
Absolutely.
And it's probably teaching you something that you don't want to learn, that ugliness, that bad day. Just take a breath. Get yourself back together. Do what you have to do to get your balance back. But just keep going forward afterwards. Just keep moving. Just keep moving.
Yeah. Are you the kind of person who sets annual goals? You set 5-year goals? What's your outlook, your target? What's your plan? How do you work?
I'm extremely. It's terrible to say. So there's a couple people who I'm on I've been on a couple boards and nonprofits, and I'm always the treasurer. So I'm always kind of in that financial analytical mode, and I am analytical. And so, yes, I'm a goal-oriented person. I keep yellow pads.
Okay.
Yellow pads are with me always. You have a yellow pad? You look like a yellow pad person.
I have a rainbow pad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. I keep them with me. Yeah.
And I have been since probably before I can remember writing to-do lists down, which turn into goals, which turn into, and the reason I like it, and this is going to sound silly, I get joy out of scratching it off when you've completed the task.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels good.
Oh, absolutely. Gives you momentum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even completing a to-do list, which becomes a goal. And also the part I like about it, and the thing is I have a box of these probably going back 15 years.
Yeah.
And I can scroll back and go, oh, I had a goal back in whatever year it was to have $1,000 in my bank account.
Okay.
$1,000. And if I had $1,000 in my bank account, it was everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I remember when I met my wife. She's going to be mad that I tell this story. Her only goal, and we've been together almost 30 years, so this is not that, 27 years. To make $40,000 a year. Okay. She hates when I bring it out because she's like, all I need to do is make $40,000 a year and I'm good. And I always bring that back to her as like,
right.
Because what happens is you blow those goals out of the water,
mm-hmm.
and that gives you the encouragement to make another goal.
Absolutely.
So 1,000 became 10,000. Honest to God, $1,000 became $10,000.
For her?
No, for me in the bank. My $1,000 in the bank became $10,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
Because once you hit 1,000, you're not gonna just walk around and be in 1,000 air. You want to make a bigger goal. That's how it works. And then you go to 10,000 and you hit that goal, and so on and so forth. But that's the importance of goals. And yes, I'm a goal writing down, achieving. I go back in my yellow, scratch them out. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I wrote down a goal one time. I had 2 goals that people laughed at me for. One, I said I wanted to own a jazz club. I love music. So I've always said I want to own a jazz club.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody wants to own a jazz club, Donya. People would say that to me, and I've owned a jazz club.
There you go.
It's off. Checked it off.
Checked it off.
Do I have any desire to own a jazz club again? No. Got that out of my system.
Been there,
but I have been a partner and owned a jazz club in Las Vegas.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that. What was that conversation? Not the conversation. What was that process? Because your wife's name is April, right?
Correct.
What was that process when she first said, I'm good, $40,000, I'm good? What was the process like of getting her to go, no, it's not enough. We're talking, maybe 6 figures, maybe 7 figures. What was that process with her over the 30 years?
It's really, I didn't have to do anything. I mean, what happens is just being around people that ascribe to things bigger than maybe you saw,
mm-hmm.
makes you, again, we've talked about it before, see the world differently.
Yeah.
See normal differently. And that's the key. And again, she has now been a part of my family, all those people that I've been talking about for 27 years now.
Yeah.
And so it's just a different world. We travel, we go places. I told her when we got together, we're going to travel. I always travel. It's not a big deal in my family. We travel. She's sure. And we've been everywhere. I mean, she has an affiliate. She loves the Caribbean islands. And so, we went to Anguilla for our honeymoon. I mean, we've really been blessed in that, but it was a part of my normal life. My family travels. That's what we do. And as a kid, you just hated it. Being dragged to the Bahamas or Barbados,
dragged.
Yeah, right. Because it was our normal. It was a beautiful, but it was our normal. So for the idea of going someplace wasn't a big deal in my head. Mm-hmm. It's just not. It's what we do. So you want to go? Let's go. Yeah. And we go. And so now she sees that and so obviously and now she's way out of my atmosphere now. She's way out of my atmosphere. She is big time. And I can't keep up with her. And, I mean, honest to goodness, I'm way behind, and I'm the, why do we need that? What do we need this for? I mean,
yeah.
Oh, you're so, so I'm the one that doesn't know anything, and
right.
I'm trying to keep up.
I get it. I get it.
They say, and I think I'm going to get this wrong, but they say, look at the 5 closest people in your circle.
You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah. Boy. And then you go, man.
Yeah.
God. And that's what sometimes people go, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you want to change your life, change your circle.
Change your circle. That's a conversation for another day. Also.
Yeah, I know it.
It's a conversation for another day. Yeah,
I know it.
We can go down that hole and get trapped.
I have so many different kinds of friends. You'd be amazed at some of the people I would tell you that I hang. Yeah,
I get it.
but that's me. That's me. I
Yeah.
like the difference,
I love that too. Now that we've had this time, I don't think I would be amazed. I think I would go, Donya's a baller. She's a big, high craps table player roller,
I'm attracted to just cool people.
I
You
love
don't have,
that.
you don't need to look a certain way or be a
Yeah.
certain way or do a certain, just people that elevate me and make me feel good in some
Yeah.
way. That's what I'm attracted to.
Perfect. Perfect. So as we begin to wrap this up, I actually have two more questions for you. Now that, my brother-in-law said his whole thing, now we're about the same age. And he goes, Trey, we got more years behind us than we have in front of us. I didn't believe that. I said, no, damn it, I'm gonna be 100. So I'm dead even right now, because I'm not gonna be like, oh, you're 62, 100. So what is on the radar in a form of reinventing? How are you going to keep up leveling your game? Is there anything when you go, I'm going to be here till I'm 100? What are these couple of things that I haven't done yet that I really want to do?
That's a great one. I would like to, I don't know, I would like to some way be able to communicate my experiences and create an organization or a business that can immediately have uh, a profound effect on the success of young African American children.
Mm.
I would like, and I would say all children. I mean, but young African American children. Um, we hear when I use the word programming. I know some people are going to hear that in a negative term, but I want our children to be able to see and experience things that they dream about.
Right.
And I don't know if that shows up in a foundation or whatever it shows up as, but I really want to have an impact, an immediate impact. And I know lots of organizations are already doing that right now. But there's just some things. I think housing is another big issue of mine. I believe that if we need to house people, and if young people and young mothers are walking around and their biggest concern on their head every day is about how they're going to sleep that night, they don't have a chance to be their great selves.
Right.
And so I'd like to somehow be involved in some housing issues that are plague all of our cities, including Las Vegas. And we're doing better, but there's a lot that we can still do. We have so many resources and so much money. I mean, I think we're recognizing now in the pandemic, we didn't get the centralized support, governmental support that I think we could have had in the last year and a half. We're starting to get it now. But it's made the states have to be more creative and and the communities in those states have to be more creative on how to take care of each other. Well, let's keep doing that. I mean, we need both, but now we recognize that we can do a better job at taking care of each other. I just feel like there's something I'm supposed to be doing on that arena as well, and empowering people financially, empowering people economically, making people understand the power of our wealth. There's more. There's got to be some way, and maybe this is a beginning. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow. That's so incredible. And so when you look at it, is there anything like when you were, let's say, what was the age where you had the biggest dreams? Was that when you were a teenager, a kid, under 10? What age was that?
Yeah, I was young. I was young when I was dreaming. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert, actually. And I say, they ask, are you an introvert, extrovert? I guess the description is how do you relax? How do you get your balance back? That's who you are. If you like being at parties to make yourself feel better and relax, then you're an extrovert.
Yeah.
If you like being alone to get your power back, then you're an introvert. Now, I play an extrovert well on TV, kind of
You
thing.
do? Yeah.
I can play one on TV, but my natural. So I, as a young kid, probably the age of 12 to 14-ish, I was dreaming a lot. I was reading a lot. I was watching old movies. What we'd call on the TCM, Turner Classic Network channels now. Those are the things. And so I was dreaming. I was seeing things. I was visioning a life for myself that wasn't really clear, but it was just a feeling and emotion. I think I've been walking towards that my whole life.
That was my next question. I was like, when you were 12, thinking of that, and you look at the notch where you're on that ladder, are you where you thought you would be?
Yeah, I think sometimes I sit in my backyard, or sometimes you catch yourself in a place and you go, wow, I dreamed this to happen. I'm here. most of us don't get the experience and recognize, they say smell the roses.
Mhm.
I've had a lot of those experiences when I go, man, that 12-year-old somehow dreamed this and I'm here. I made it.
Yeah.
And it gets a little more challenging as you get older to have those kind of wide eyes and dreaming. And
Mhm.
but I think I was young when I was watching those movies and reading those books. I kind of saw a life, but it wasn't clear. You didn't have all the lines filled in, but it
Yeah.
was a vision that I had. So
I love that. Well, I know from this conversation that we just had that I need you in my tribe. And I don't even say want, I say need.
okay.
Right. And
Well,
so,
I feel lucky to have met you, to be quite honest, because you and I think clearly are going to have some many more conversations.
absolutely.
And I believe we're going to probably solve some problems and create some things
I
that we
love
don't
that.
even know about yet.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we wrap it up, let's say there are people listening to this episode right now. Where can they connect with you? They're like, I want to work with that financial planner. I already know that we have a lot in common. She can take me where I want to go. How can they get in touch with you? How can they connect with you?
Well, I have some parameters. I'm not as how do I say this? I'm selective in who I do business with. I
Got
guess
it.
if anybody didn't get that earlier, I am selective of who I do business with.
Mhm.
My email is my business to get Donya, DONYA, at Monroe Williams,
Mhm.
MONROE Williams, WILLIAMS.com. Send me an email. I'll try to get back to you. I'll have a conversation, see if it's a fit. Because there's so many other things I also am out there doing and want to do that I just, like you said, we got more years behind us than ahead of us. So I'm actually closer to retirement, and I don't
Mhm.
see myself ever retiring, but slowing down
Got it.
the need or desire to be chasing money, if that makes sense, and more
Yes.
of the need to desire to chase, joy and
Experiences.
fulfillment and experience and
Yeah.
sharing. So I'm moving closer to that. So anytime I can help someone, I'm absolutely love to do it. But I'm being more selective. But Donya
Okay.
at MonroeWilliams.com, and I'll do my best to see what. And if you have a referral, that increases your chance. So if you say something like Trey, or
I heard you on the podcast, or Vicky Lander.
I'll be honest with you. That's how I work now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to come from good people. How did we connect? Good people.
Good people.
Vicky's
That
people.
homie,
And
Vicky
Nancy, are
Lander.
you kidding? Man,
Yeah.
she tells me to do something, I do it. Here I am.
There we go. She good people. She good
Yes.
people. See,
Yes.
she's gonna love to hear this episode just to hear that.
Oh, please.
I love that, homie. Absolutely. Well, Donya, thank you so much. This has been so fun. The conversation was just like, I have 5 different other areas I want to go now, but we can't make the people listen to 5 hours. People are like an hour or less, Trey. Come on. So Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been an honor.
This has been a pleasure. I appreciate you asking me, and I feel honored that I got an opportunity to sit on your show. And thank you, really. It's been an honor.
Thank you so much for listening. If you're finding value in this podcast, I would love it if you could leave a 5-star review. Yeah, I know I said 5-star. I would love it if it's a 5-star review, but I would love it if we could get more reviews for the show. That way more people can find the show. And if you're someone looking for a coach, looking for a way to raise the roof on what you think your potential is, to get rid of the roof, if you're looking for someone who wants to unlock and reveal your unlimited potential in order to transform your life for success, click the link at the bottom of the show notes. I would love to have a connect call with you, get to know you, see if I'm the coach who could help you reach your dreams in 2021 and beyond.